The car ride home was an exercise in claustrophobia. Anne and I were squeezed into Mom's sedan, while Ezra and Silas followed in a sleek black rental that screamed government budget. I watched them in the side mirror, two silent silhouettes that made me feel safer and more endangered all at once. The familiar streets of my hometown slipped by, each landmark a ghost of a life I no longer lived. The old movie theater, the corner store, the park where I'd had my first kiss. Everything was the same, but I was irrevocably different. So, Anne said, poking my ribs with a grin, the colleagues, are we talking spreadsheets or bedsheets? Anne, Mom scolded from the front seat, though her eyes darted to the rearview mirror with undisguised interest. They are strictly professional, I lied, though the memory of Silas's scent, cedar and rain, was clinging to my senses like a second skin. They're just protective, work friends. Aha, Anne smirked. She knew, of course. She knew about the demon thing, and she likely guessed that the two supermodels tailing us weren't here to debug code. We arrived home, and the domesticity of it hit me like a physical blow. The smell of pot roast and cinnamon, the old creaky floorboard by the door, Dad's collection of fishing rods in the corner. It was a life I had disqualified myself from the moment my wings sprouted. Ezra and Silas helped carry luggage inside with a lethal efficiency that made Dad raise an eyebrow. You boys staying for dinner? Dad asked, sizing Ezra up. Dad was a big guy, but Ezra was a monolith of muscle and stoicism. We wouldn't want to intrude, Ezra said, his voice polite but firm. Nonsense, Mom waved a hand. Lillian's friends are our friends, there's plenty. I caught Silas's eye. He gave a microscopic shrug. His gaze was clear, saying what his voice couldn't. Protocol, stay close to the asset. Dinner preparation was a blur of forced small talk. I offered to help, but found myself hovering uselessly in the kitchen, hyper-aware of the space. Ezra stood by the patio door, looking out at the backyard as if scanning for snipers in the hydrangeas. Silas leaned against the counter, charming Mom with stories about Chicago traffic, his voice a low, easy cadence. I walked past him to grab a glass of water, and his hand shot out, catching my wrist. His grip was warm, instantly grounding. Your heart rate is 120, he murmured, his voice pitched so only I could hear. You need to breathe, Lil. I can't, I whispered back, my throat tight. I'm lying to them with every breath, and I trailed off, unable to say the word, hungry. The airport snack hadn't been nearly enough. The stress was burning through my reserves, leaving a cold, gnawing void in my center that demanded warmth, friction, life. Silas's pupils dilated. He could smell it on me, the pheromones of a starving succubus. Hold on, he said softly, his thumb tracing a soothing line over my pulse point. Just get through dinner. Lil, honey, you're white as a sheet. Mom's voice cut through the fog. Are you okay? Soon we were seated. The food was hot, the room was cozy, and I felt like I was dying. Anne was practically giddy, the traitor, waiting for the show to begin. Ezra was seated to my right, Silas to my left, a wall of muscle and magic boxing me in. So, I began, my voice trembling slightly. You all love me, right? Unconditionally, Ezra's knee pressed against mine under the table. A solid, unyielding weight, a silent message. We're here. Is this like that time you asked if you were adopted? Dad asked, frowning. Sort of, I said, pushing my chair back and standing up. Can you promise not to freak out? I took a deep breath as my magic slammed the blinds shut, plunging the room into shadow. Then with shaking hands, I reached for the hem of my shirt. That's some very revealing lingerie she's wearing, dear, Dad remarked to Mom, suspicion radiating off him. Ezra shifted, his gaze dark and protective. Silas leaned forward, his amber eyes locked on my face, offering silent encouragement. Okay, I whispered to myself. I closed my eyes and let the glamour fall.
Want to keep the flame ignited without having to wait for the next part? You can find the full, tantalizing tale on our main page. See the link in the description.